want to point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I want to hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 477th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey, me, and the amazing Tom Fennell in the flesh.
Beat me to it.
I did. I did on purpose, but you're allowed to say it too.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. Okay. Every day I find the news that I can find about energy and climate change. I put it together at a blog called geoharvey.com. And it is the most important items of the 10 to 15 items that I put up every day, usually 15, are put together in this show. So Tom and I talk about them here.
Well, put me up. I usually get a chance to comment on this.
You take a chance to comment on almost everything.
And I just want to mention that some of the items that we're going to talk about are very well written and in depth, and it would make sense.
One of them in particular.
There was always one of them in particular.
No, that one of the graph.
Mention it.
Yeah, we will get to it. But
now, there are links. How do you get to them? Because if you want to pursue this, you click on a link. A person who's
watching the show can scroll down on the screen, and down below there's a couple of things that you can do. One is to go to the Energy Week number 477 on the internet, and the other one is to download it as a file. And in either case, you're going to be able to find links to the things that we're talking about.
Well, some of these are well worth checking out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I suppose we should start. What do you think?
Yeah, we might as well start. The first one says, quote, "Scientists saw Yellowstone's unprecedented flooding coming."
They did indeed. This is from CNN. Scientists predicted more frequent events like this week's flash flooding in the Yellowstone area. Just last year, one report on the future of Yellowstone concluded that the climate crisis would lead to more rainfall and rapid snowmelt, to extreme spring and summer warmth. And, you know, here again, we keep talking about how hurricanes and so forth are dumping more water. We're having bigger water events in the middle of a drought.
In the middle of a drought, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they had a 3-day rainfall. It didn't stop raining for the 10th to the 13th.
Yeah.
And they got over 5 inches.
5 inches covers the ground pretty well.
And combined with the snowmelt, it led to a massive deluge of water equivalent to 2 to 3 months worth of precipitation.
Yeah, why don't you put
in
that
3 days.
This picture.
Oh, let's get the picture up. Yeah,
is a picture from the National Park Service that shows basically how...
that's the devastation in the park.
That's right. A smallish river has completely wiped out a road. There is no way you can get vehicles in or out of there. And the other roads, every single road in and out of Yellowstone Park has been closed for reasons that are similar to this. And there's something like 10,000 people who were told they had to go away.
Well, we're not set up to show a video on the show, but there's a video there where you watch a house collapsing into the floodwater.
I've seen
it's only a minute, you know, but it's
I've
sitting there,
several places.
and you just see it go right into the lake, right into the river.
And then it goes down the river. Goodbye, house.
Bye, my house.
Somebody supplied me a couple of years ago with a picture of several houses that had fallen into a river in a flood in Pennsylvania. And they had all got caught up on a railroad bridge. And they couldn't go under the bridge, so they just stuck there. Houses. There were several houses.
Yeah, stacked up
against a bridge. Yeah.
Wow.
And this is something that we're going to see more and more of because
we're going to see oceanside houses going.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we talked about one on the show.
I think we've talked about several.
Well, I can picture one sitting on a beach and all of a sudden it's not there anymore.
Yes. Okay, we should go on, Tom.
I think we should. The next one is from CNN.
The next one
We'll
is
get
from
a picture up. if we can.
CNN, yes, indeed. And we have a picture
There's
here.
a picture.
That's a funny picture. What is it?
Satellite spots the world's largest methane leak in a Russian coal mine.
It's a methane leak, and if you can't make out any lines or anything on there that makes sense, it's probably because it's in Russia. And
Well, I assume that the green and blue are the methane leaks.
I believe that.
And it doesn't look like they're doing much to abate them.
No, in fact, this really blew my mind when I read it. The Raspadskia mine in the Kemerovo region in the remote southern part of southern Russia is spewing out huge amounts of methane, a potential greenhouse gas in what is described as the, quote, biggest, end quote, such leak ever detected from a single facility. The leak was found by the GHGS-AT satellite. Now,
Greenhouse gas.
yeah, the thing that struck me about this isn't coming from a gas well. This is coming from a coal mine.
It's coming from an underground coal mine.
Yeah, and
Well, there's a reason. There could be a reason for that.
yeah,
It could be intentional and related to safety.
yes,
Methane is an unavoidable byproduct of mining, and it's explosive.
yes. In this particular
And there has been history of coal mines
Oh,
exploding.
yeah, absolutely. Do you happen to have the figure in front of you of the amount of methane that's lost every day?
Well, the mine itself will emit more than 764,000 tons of methane. But that's not every day.
It seems to
That's
me.
a year.
Okay, it seems to me that what I remember was that the mine was losing 90 metric tons of methane every day. That's a lot of methane.
Oh, it is. The mine is releasing you lied to us. Not 90 tons every day. 90 tons every hour.
90 tons an hour. Now, I have
Now,
no
a
idea.
ton of gas is a lot of gas.
That's a lot of gas. And it's got a lot of value. If they could capture that methane and sell it, they'd.
But this is Russia.
I had a friend once who was a Russian diplomat.
Uh-huh.
He was expelled from the United States for spying. That was after I knew.
They wouldn't do that, would
No. And he made a comment about the condition of the American railroads, and he said, if we have railroads in Russia that are obsolete, we don't abandon them. We keep them going.
So do we.
But in Russia, they do it as a matter of policy. Even if they're losing money, they keep it going. Okay, we should keep going too.
Yeah, we got another picture coming
We have
up
a
here.
picture here of a guy.
He's standing on top of a turbine.
I can't imagine doing this kind of thing.
I'm sure he gets paid well.
I'm sure he does. To be able to get there, he's got to climb a vertical ladder that is about 20 stories tall, at least. Now,
Well,
I'm
it's
sorry,
as tall as the turbine.
I would not do that. I just would not
Well,
do
that's
that.
why you're sitting here and I'm sitting here.
That's correct. That's why. And
He's making a good buck.
he is, and I would not be able to do it. I've got a thing about heights. This is from Renews.
Well, this headline confuses me a little bit, but
Okay.
it says the wind industry urges, quote, greater policy ambition.
Yes, the global.
What does that mean?
Well, let's see if we can figure it out. The Global Wind Energy Coalition for COP27 has called for greater policy ambition and volumes made available to scale up to 390 gigawatts of.
That's a lot of watts.
That's a lot of watts. That's
a lot of watts.
390 gigawatts. Wind energy installations by 2030. On Global Wind Day, the coalition is calling for the scale up in line with net zero trajectory. So what what the title means is that the wind industry is urging policymakers to get more ambitious.
To get going, do something.
Yeah, do something.
Well, there's this Global Wind Energy Coalition. Is a multi-stakeholder group of leading wind power companies and associations. So it's not all corporations that's behind it, okay?
Yes, that's right.
And they're committed to ramping up wind power capacity to limit the impacts of climate change.
Yeah.
That's noble.
Yeah. Okay, we're up to Friday, June
Already.
17th, already.
Got a picture of it coming up.
Yeah, this looks
That
like
looks like storage to me.
I was going to say it looks like storage units, and this you can tell by looking at that tree. These things are not all that big.
Well, they're big enough to get on it. They're about as big as a trailer truck.
Yeah.
I mean, these are several of these stacked together there.
Yes, that's right.
But each one is capable of being hauled by a truck.
Yes.
Which is on purpose.
Yes, that's on purpose. And
the tree is for free.
This is from
Nice tree.
This is from Renewable Energy magazine.
U.S. grid-scale energy storage market breaks the first quarter record.
The U.S. energy storage market set a new record in the first quarter of 2022 with grid-scale installations totaling 2,399 megawatt hours, which is 2.4 gigawatt hours, the highest capacity for Q1 on record. The volume of U.S. grid-scale installations was 4 times the volume seen in the first quarter of last year, according to sources.
So overall, the U.S. energy storage market added 955 megawatts, which is almost a gigawatt.
Almost a gigawatt.
Okay, and 2,875 megawatt hours.
Yep.
To the first quarter.
Yep. So the amount that went on in the first quarter would be able to put out more electricity than the old Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant by a factor of about 50%.
How much was Yankee putting out?
At the end, it was putting out over 600 megawatts. I think it was 600.
So it's over half a gigawatt.
Yeah, it might have been 640, but it was closer to two-thirds of a gigawatt than it was to half. But this thing is close to a gigawatt, so it's a good deal bigger.
And it's still sitting there drawing flies.
What's that?
It's still sitting there drawing flies.
The Vermont Yankee.
Yeah. They haven't done much to it.
Well, they've taken all the spent fuel out of
put it in casks.
They've put it in casks.
But the casks are there.
The casks are going to be there for a while.
For a while. Well, they can't do much with them.
No.
There's no place to put them, and they can't take them on the highways anyhow.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be around if they had those things on the highways.
No.
Okay, our next
There's a nice picture coming up here.
Is a picture of the Congo River, taken from a boat on the Congo River, I would imagine. And this is...
Congo's a pretty big river.
It's a pretty big river.
It's the second largest river in Africa.
Yeah.
After the Nile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is from the BBC.
Well, this makes a certain amount of sense. Let's get me up here.
Yeah, let's do that. I want to see you, Tom. I'm sure
Congo peat. The lungs of humanity that are under threat. Well, this is interesting.
Congo Pete sounds like the name of a cartoon character. This is a very interesting article. A giant slab of carbon-rich peat has been discovered.
They just discovered it. Where have they been?
Well, this is science. Science moves slowly, and scientists don't know everything. It's under threat from uncontrolled development, posing a significant risk for future climate change, writes BBC Africa correspondent Andrew Harding. The peat bog stores about 30 billion metric tons of carbon.
That's a bit.
Well,
that's a bit.
Yeah.
That's about 20 years worth of U.S. fossil fuel emissions. Whew.
Yeah, and you don't want that stuff to be coming out of there.
There's a lot of photos in this article, by the way.
It's a good article.
Comes from the BBC.
Yep.
They usually do pretty good work.
Yeah, they do. We've mentioned this many times that peat a peat bog can store a lot of carbon. This is not a bog. This is a
Well, they didn't even know it was there. I don't know. It's a giant slab about the size of England.
Okay, so the peat bog that we've got here is in an area the size of England. It's not.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah,
that's not really a peat bog because
it's just a bunch of peat bogs.
It's a bunch of peat bogs that are all together underground.
All in the same area. Yeah,
but
right.
It's been grown over, and that's why the scientists didn't know it was there. Okay, we have
nobody was on the ground down there. If they were, they weren't talking.
They weren't talking. Okay, we have a picture of a funicular.
Well, I did want to say that there was one thing here. The Congo rainforests are home to more than 600 tree species and 10,000 animal species. So they're a lot more important than we give them credit for.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's move on.
We have a picture of a funicular.
We got a funicular.
In case I have actually ridden. I have actually ridden on a funicular.
I think I have too, but I'm not sure. Now, where's that picture? There it is.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah. There it is. It's looking right at me.
There you go.
That's the funicular.
That is a funicular. The word funicular comes from a Latin word meaning rope. And what you've got is a cable that goes from the one car that you see big, and it goes up to the top, and then it goes around and down to the other car, which you see down there at the bottom of this.
Well, there's lots of ways to get up and down steep mountains.
Yes.
Funicular is only one of them.
Yeah.
And this is the one where there's two cars. One goes up, the other one goes down, and they go back and forth like that all day.
This one is particularly interesting because this funicular does not use any fossil fuels or grid electricity to keep it going. Well, it would use a tiny amount of electricity.
Well, they use water.
They use water.
They pump water up to the top.
I don't think they pump the water. I looked and
Well, animals pump it up.
Do they?
Yeah.
I thought maybe they had a spring on the top of that mountain.
Well, I'm sure they could. It could be some.
We used to have
in the process of the water coming back down, it runs a motor which moves these things back and forth.
No, it doesn't. They have a tank on the car.
The tank is on. Oh, it's on the car.
They fill the tank on the car
gravity.
at the top,
while
the tank on the car at the bottom is emptying.
Okay.
And then they take the brake off, and the thing switch position. Yeah, it's peculiar. I looked to find out how the water got to the top of the mountain, and I couldn't do it. They might be capturing rainwater.
I was trying to do that, and I couldn't do it either.
Yeah. They might have been capturing rainwater that might have come from a spring. I lived on the top of a mountain once, and we had a spring. I was near the top. We had a spring that was 180 feet higher. It was at the top. It was at the very top of the mountain. There was a spring, and it was really good water. So, what do you got for a title for this one?
What do I got?
What do you got?
The UK Haven for Alternative Thinking. Talking about a group, which is a very interesting group.
That's right. The Center for Alternative Technology spent the last half century redefining the relationship between nature and humankind. Once merely a haven for those who think about alternative ways to do things, it now offers master's degrees in fields such as energy provision, green building, and sustainable food. I cannot remember the name of the community, and I don't have it in my notes. Do you?
I don't think so. But
I recognize the name because it's.
I remember it's in the article.
Yeah, it's in the article, and it's a town that claims to be the ancient.
Well, I got the town's name.
Oh.
It's hard to pronounce it.
Well, how do you spell it?
You know Welsh.
Yeah.
It's MACHYNLLETH.
That is MACHYNLLATH. ETH.
Looks like Macalinith or something.
Yeah,
like
the Mach is the way that you pronounce MACH.
Mach.
And then Mach.
Yeah.
And then
you're spinning a little bit.
YN. Mach. YN in that position in the word would be un.
Machun.
And then LLATH or AETH would be Hleth.
Who?
Hleth. The LL sound, by the way, LL is one letter. It's a diglyph, but it's one letter.
Okay.
And it represents a sound that doesn't exist in any other Indo-European language.
Say it again. The village of what?
Mach-an-Chleth.
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 Unseth.
Okay. Anyway.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about it.
Okay.
This Center for Alternative Technology was founded in '73.
Yes.
By an eclectic experimental community of architects, engineers, builders, and organic growers in response to the oil crisis that was ignited by the Yom Kippur War in Israel.
Okay.
Okay.
We have got to get moving, Tom, because we're already several minutes behind schedule.
Well, we'll move on along. We'll visit Kit Carson.
There's Kit Carson solar panels.
Well, let me get a picture of him up.
I think that's a good idea.
There's Kit Carson.
There you go. This is from Clean Technica.
Bunch of solar panels. New Mexico's Kit Carson Electric Cooperative achieves 100% daytime solar power. They're getting all they need.
Yeah, the Kit Carson Electric Cooperative has achieved a milestone. Customers in their service area around Taos and Santa Fe, New Mexico, now have 100% of the daily electric use provided by solar power. This was achieved with the opening of a 41 megawatt solar array. Well, obviously,
they got 44,000 panels in it.
Yeah.
Over a quarter of the square mile.
Yeah.
Just for comparison, in Brattleboro, we got 5 megawatts.
Yeah.
16,000 panels. It's been operating since October 2018.
Well, this 41 megawatt array is not providing all of their solar power. It's only providing a part of it.
Well, it's providing all of the daytime power.
Not that one. They have other facilities engaged in this. That was the last one that got them over the hump.
Oh, okay.
But it got them over the hump, and now those communities. I mean, Santa Fe and Taos are not tiny towns.
No, Santa Fe's a good-sized town.
Yeah, and they're 100% power during solar power during the daytime.
Well, let's move a little closer here.
Okay, we have an item that comes from Green River Reservoir, which is in Vermont, and it's one of the Vermont state parks.
This is kind of crazy, kind of sad.
It is.
Natural beauty and renewable energy source are being threatened.
Vermont's Green River Reservoir State Park is threatened. The Vermont Agency of Natural Resources ordered Morrisville Water and Light to reduce generation by about 30%. So the dam at the reservoir operates at a loss, and the electric utility has no choice but to remove it. Now, I'm going to tell you, I think this is a really bad idea to remove it.
I think so, too.
And the state should step in and say, no, I'm sorry, there's a state park there. We want to do something about maintaining that dam, so we'll pay to keep that.
Well, they say they want to reduce the flow to restore some of the original plant life in the reservoir. And the agency's own report contradicts itself because it also states that the reservoir is currently healthy, including a healthy fish population.
And all of that is going to be
the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing.
I absolutely agree. Okay, and there are other issues with this. One of which is if you remove the dam,
then this thing disappears.
This disappears,
and
any silt that's
is going to go downhill.
Is going to go down. A friend of mine investigated a dam in Massachusetts that they were talking about removing.
Yeah.
And he found that if they did, they would have toxic chemicals dumped all along the Connecticut River, all the way to Long Island Sound.
Wow.
So they decided.
So they got to think twice about doing stuff like that.
You got to think twice about the.
They call that second-order consequences.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
Well, let's move along here. We see a rather interesting array here.
Yeah, we do. This is from Clean Technica, and I want to comment on that picture.
How did they get that Eiffel Tower out into the ocean?
I don't know. And, Tom, I don't know why. It's obviously not the original. I don't know why. Why is it really required to have an Eiffel Tower at your wind array? Or do you think they just put that in the picture to give us
Well, if you look at the picture there, It's a wind turbine,
Yeah.
but it's a bunch of little wind
It's a
turbines
bunch
instead of
little
one big
turbines.
one.
That's right. A bunch of little ones.
It's a big bunch. There's about 100 of them there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think
GM
100.
falls for a crazy floating wind turbine idea, which may not be so crazy after all.
Okay, this is from Clean Technica. General Motors has been deploying its GM Ventures arm to kickstart next generation clean tech. The firm has spearheaded a round of up to $10 million in funding for a new floating wind turbine system that looks like a giant wall of fidget spinners.
For what it's worth, fidget spinners are handheld toys designed to spin freely in your grasp and nothing else.
Yes.
It's a toy.
It's a toy. This thing is not a toy. And they obviously put the Eiffel Tower into the picture to give us an
Just
idea
to get
of
a
scale.
picture of how big this thing is.
Yep.
It is big. I mean, there's
big.
100 little turbines there.
Yeah.
It's a new idea, really.
I think it might be more than 100 turbines, but
Yeah, not by much, but it could very well be. It's hard to count them.
it's kind of hard to count them. Okay, our next item comes from Clean Technica.
Well,
wait
it's
a minute.
a cost-cutting maneuver
Yes,
to locate more than one turbine on one platform.
yes.
And they've done it here. I don't know if that's a real picture or not. We should.
That is not a real picture. That's
an artist
rendering.
Artist
Yeah.
rendering, huh?
Yeah.
Well, the structure looks delicate, but they claim it has a design life of 50 years
Whoops.
and offers substantial savings in maintenance costs.
I keep pushing that button.
So it's a different concept.
Okay, we have an item from the BBC.
And this is Sunday, June 19th,
Yes, that's right.
and it is from the BBC. You're ahead of me there.
Yes.
And interestingly enough, it's called a forest.
Is that really? Okay, what do you got?
Friendly fungi help forests fight climate change.
While we know that forests play a major role in countering global warming, acting as reservoirs for carbon, what is less well understood is how tiny organisms that dwell hidden in the soil help lock away our greenhouse gas emissions. I'm not going to try. Well, I should try. Ectomycorrhizal fungi enable certain trees to absorb CO2 faster. And these...
This crazy word refers to a symbiotic relationship
Yeah.
between the fungus and the roots of various plant
And
species.
these fungi are amazing. Absolutely amazing. I read an article several years ago about scientists who had two Douglas firs that were both small trees, and they were not very, they were, only a few feet apart, and they covered one of them completely. I mean completely, so it had no access to light at all.
So they put like a blanket over it.
Yeah, just one of them.
Yeah.
And then they watched as that one was drawing sugars to keep itself alive
From the other. Yeah.
And the pathway was fungi that were underground.
That's exactly what we're talking about here.
That's what we're talking about.
Well, these fungi live in the root system
Yeah.
and help the tree absorb more water, carbon, and other nutrients.
Yes.
But it's not a one-way thing. In exchange, the tree provides food for the fungi.
Right.
Okay, it's heads I win, tails you lose.
Yes. Or something.
Something like that.
Okay.
Well, this is the bad news. Naturally occurring forest fungi are being put to risk by human activity.
Yes. And that's not just true in forests. It's also true in...
Not true about a lot of things.
It's true about a lot of things. This no-till farming works on a similar basis. Okay, our next item is from the National.
And there's a picture
And there's
of
a picture there of
a solar farm in Mexico. It's a big solar farm.
That's a big solar farm.
Mexico signs renewable energy deals with U.S. companies as it steps up the climate change fight.
Mexico has made commitments with 17 U.S. companies on generating clean energy, its president said. This is a change. He had not been in favor of clean energy a year ago. After months of friction with business leaders, President López Obrador said the deals would generate 1.854 gigawatts as the government fights climate change.
Well, Mexico is wealthy in that it's got a lot of deserts.
Yeah.
And deserts are a good place to put solar.
Deserts provide you with wealth, Tom. I never knew that when I was a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'm just going to go on from there.
Well, one of the backstories here is Mexico is home to some of the largest car manufacturing plants, whose
Yes.
production is designed for more than 80% of the U.S. market.
Yes,
So they're using this electricity to
power
make
them.
cars for us.
That's right. Okay, we have a picture here of a place called Flaming Gorge Reservoir.
We do that. I'll get
And
that up.
that reservoir is on the border between Utah and Wyoming, as I recall. Is that possible?
I don't know. I think I'll let you know that because I think I might have the answer to that. The Southwest's unchecked thirst for Colorado River water could prove devastating upstream.
Yeah. When the Federal Bureau of Reclamation and 4 states agreed to release a sixth of the capacity of the Flaming Gorge Reservoir on the borders of Utah and Wyoming, there you go, to help desiccated communities in the South, it created a local uproar. So what they're doing is they're just running this water from the reservoir down the river in order to use it down the river.
Yeah.
Because they don't have water down the river, which is just spreading the
They're making everybody sore.
yeah, they're making
Nobody's
everybody-
happy.
Nobody's happy.
It's an interesting article.
Yes.
There's a lot of pictures in it, and there's 2 videos. So
Yes.
check this article out.
Yes. Okay, our next item.
Well, I've still got a few things to say
Okay,
about this.
well, say it.
Well, the Colorado River, we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
It's important. It irrigates farms, powers electric grids, and provides drinking water for 40 million people.
Right.
Okay, as its supply dwindles, a crisis looms. On the Colorado system, the massive unchecked demand for water downstream is a threat to everything upstream.
Yes. Okay. We have a picture here of a graph, and this, I think, is
A graph?
possibly the most, or a chart.
We got a graph here? We got
You can, if you,
I got a different picture.
you might.
Half a penny for near firm solar?
Yes. I'm sorry, Tom. I replaced that with one here, but I didn't expect you to pick up that old one because I did
Oh, okay. So
on Monday.
we that was in the article.
Yeah. Why don't you put it up?
That graph, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Let's see.
And I just said,
if I
we've
can't
got to
do
have
that.
this thing up. People have to see this. All right.
Well, the article says it's from PV Magazine USA.
Correct.
Half a penny for near firm solar and trillions in renewable opportunities.
Okay.
That's a good headline.
We have to clarify something here. Near firm solar power means for practical purposes, you're using it 24/7, except once in a while when you might need a little bit of power coming in from outside.
But you can count on it being there.
But you can count
most
on it
part.
being there for the most part all the time, which means that that makes it unnecessary to have any kind of baseload power plant. Okay,
If you look at that graph,
it's amazing.
well, one of the things it says that onshore wind is the cheapest.
Yes.
And offshore wind is the most expensive.
Well, offshore wind is not the most expensive. The most expensive is the new small modular
Yeah.
nuclear reactors,
Which
that
are a
people are
joke.
saying this is going to bring a nuclear renaissance. I'm
That
sorry.
ain't going to happen.
Why would you pay 10.5 to 13.5 cents per kilowatt hour wholesale for power from a nuclear power plant when it isn't as good as power from an onshore wind turbine that's near firm, or onshore solar that's near firm, and you can get that for somewhere between 2.5 and 3.7 cents. So instead of 2.5 to 3.7 cents, you're paying 10.5 to 13.5 cents. And
Well, they're going up wherever they're going up for political reasons.
oh, absolutely.
No other reason.
There's-
They're not making money on them.
Somebody is making
Somebody's making money. Absolutely.
somebody is making money, but they're not going to reduce the cost to the.
Well, they're far from economic.
And by the way, this information doesn't come from some off-the-wall guy who thinks that he knows what he's talking about.
Comes from TV Magazine.
No, it's come. Look in the
lower
I
had the
corner.
article.
Next, whoops, sorry.
Whoop.
Next, whoops. I'm running it. NextEra Energy, lower right-hand corner.
Yeah.
NextEra Energy is the biggest renewable energy company in the United States. It also happens to own a lot of other generation, more other generation than renewable. And among the things that it owns are 7 nuclear reactors, including Seabrook.
Next Energy?
Yeah.
Oh.
NextEra Energy. So
they got a vested interest here.
This came from their communication
website
that they sent to their stockholders. And you'll notice Seabrook Nuclear is an existing nuclear plant. They're saying that's 3.4 to 4.9 cents, which means that it's going to be more expensive, guaranteed, than a near firm onshore wind site. So you read the title. I should read the synopsis here. NextEra, the largest renewable company in the United States, sees 3.5 terawatts.
That's bigger than gigawatts.
1,000 times as big as gigawatts of renewable energy installations through 2050 worth $2 trillion.
That's more than I can count to.
It's more than I can, too. I think it's more than you and I to put together. If you tried 1 trillion and I tried the other, we wouldn't finish. And that figure could double under the right conditions. It says energy storage adder for solar power is now about 0.4 of a cent to 0.6 of a cent per kilowatt hour.
That's a half a cent. That's not much at all.
I just said nuclear is not as good.
Yeah.
Nuclear has to be backed up by something that will follow the load. And those load follower plants are coming on.
They're expensive.
They're expensive. We're talking about 17 cents per kilowatt hour up to 27 cents per kilowatt hour.
Under the right conditions.
That's being replaced by batteries that are about 0.5 cent per kilowatt hour.
Well, the article says that fossil fuels have been driving the majority of global price inflation.
Yeah.
Levelized solar costs have increased by 16%. While fossils have more than doubled.
Yeah, that's costs.
The cost of generating.
Yeah. Okay, we should go on. We've got more to talk about.
Well, there's a quick takeaway here.
Okay.
This increases potential financial opportunities from approximately $2 trillion to $4 trillion. Over the next 28 years, a deployed capacity of 7,000 gigawatts implies an average of 250 gigawatts each year. That's the new construction they're talking about.
Yes, it's cheaper to build these new near-firm solar and wind
than it is to use old nuclear.
Run the old plants.
Yeah, bingo.
Okay, our next item.
Nice picture here.
Is this is Southland. Southland, by the way, is southernmost. It's the southernmost area of
New
Zealand, which means it's cold down there. And
yeah, it is. That's why there's snow on the mountains.
This is from an organization called stuff.co.nz.
Australian companies in the mix for $5 billion worth of Southland hydrogen plant.
Australian companies.
This hydrogen plant's going to start becoming very important.
They already, people are putting tons of money into these things. Australian companies Woodside Energy and Fortescue Future Industries are counterparties in the final stage negotiations to become lead developer and prospective world's largest green hydrogen plant in New Zealand's Southland region at the southern end of South Island.
Well, there's an interesting video in this, if you can look it up. It's green hydrogen being made commercially.
Right.
In New Zealand.
In New Zealand. Okay, we're behind schedule, so we have to hop along. Our next item is from CNN.
Well, let's get a picture of this one here.
This is a German coal-burning power plant.
In the snow.
In the snow, that's right. And what do you got?
Germany to fire up coal stations as Russia squeezes their gas supply.
Yeah, Germany must reduce natural gas consumption and increase burning coal in order to help fill gas storage facilities for next winter. German Economic Minister Robert Habeck announced as the country moves away from reduced Russian gas supplies.
This has a lot of political implications.
Oh, yeah.
This is not good.
Absolutely. One thing that I should mention here is there are a lot of people who are saying Germany still has 3 nuclear plants and it's closing them down by the end of this year. And the end of this year is just at when the
6
Russians,
months away.
Yeah, and the Russians are saying they could close down their gas supply. And
then
so a lot of
Germany
people are saying we should get these plants, keep these plants going.
Just in case.
And what they don't realize is that the staff in those plants have already found other places to live and other jobs that they're going to be going to in 6 months. And you cannot refuel a nuclear power plant just by going down to the local shop and buying fuel for it.
Yes, I thought you could pick it up in a hardware store.
Yeah, right. And it takes over a year, sometimes a year and a half.
Yeah.
And on top of
And it takes a long time.
The fuel that they get in Germany, where does it come from?
It comes from Russia.
Russia. So it's not going to work.
This is, to say the least, problematic.
Yeah, and that is something that we will talk about next week. It was in the news today.
Uh-huh.
So there you have it. Now,
Well, we got another one coming up. We got another interesting picture coming up.
This is an interesting picture, and I found it actually kind of disturbing.
It looks kind of neat.
It does. That is a rendering.
It's an artist's conception.
I believe it is, of a floating city, an area in a floating city. We're up to Tuesday, by the way, June 21st, and this is from CNN.
Floating city in the Maldives begins to take shape.
A city is rising from waters in the Indian Ocean. A turquoise lagoon just 10 minutes by boat from Male, the Maldivian capital. A floating city big enough to house 20,000 people is being constructed. Because it floats, it is not vulnerable to sea level rise from climate change.
Yeah, all the buildings go up and down on pilings.
Right. Now, the thing that bothers me about this is I wonder, they're putting plants in. You know, they've got little palm trees there. I wonder if they're really considering the complete ecological needs of this place, because
Well, it's an artist rendering. There may not be any plants at all.
Did they figure out what insects had to be put in? Did they figure out what spiders?
Well,
what
they've done a lot of work on
lizards,
this. They're not playing games here. Well, there's a lot of pictures in this article and a very good video.
Yeah.
Okay, and for what it's worth, the Maldives are 1,200 low-lying islands southwest of the southern tip of India,
And
just the opposite of Sri Lanka.
they are threatened by.
Well, yeah, 80% of them are less than 3 feet above sea level.
Wow.
So, yeah, they're definitely threatened.
Okay, I'm going to go on again. We have a picture of the Hamilton power plant.
Well, I'll bring that up.
This is
Which is a stranded asset.
Yeah. This is also from stuff.co.nz.
It's in New Zealand.
That's correct.
Contact is the name of the company.
Yeah.
Hamilton Power Plant is closing next year to reduce carbon emissions. And that's a big power plant, but as you can see, it's coal.
No, it's natural gas.
Natural gas, okay. It's a big plant.
For New Zealand, it's a sizable plant. New Zealand's Contact Energy is closing the Hamilton power plant next year to reduce carbon emissions. The 44 megawatt gas-fired power station has been operating since 1999. This thing's only 23 years old and they're shutting it down.
Well, it's losing money. It's the economics, stupid.
No, I think they're saying that it's because of emissions. They want to get...
That's what they say.
Yeah.
They might be right.
It provides steam and electricity to a dairy factory. This is a big dairy factory.
It is.
With surplus electricity going back to the grid.
Well, the gap in generation created by the closure will be replaced by new renewable generation,
Right.
set to come on stream in the coming years.
Yep.
Well, 83% of Contact Energy's generation is currently renewable.
Yes.
So they're moving in the right
They're
direction.
moving in the right direction. They're cutting.
Let's
out
move
the-
along here. We got an interesting picture of a car.
Well, it's a vehicle. It's a van.
It's a Ford electric van.
Yeah.
And it says on the side of it, ta-da, 100% electric.
100% electric.
Ford sets EV sales record again.
Yeah. This is from Clean Technica. Ford sold 6,254 electric vehicles last month. This put its total sales at 222% above last May's numbers, an amazing increase. I got news for you. When you start talking about percentages, particularly where the numbers are not very high, you got to raise a red flag that says, what does this really mean?
That's a good point.
Yeah. If I make $1 and then the next day I make $3.22, I have increased my income by 222% in one day.
In one day.
Okay. Perhaps more importantly, Ford's EV sales growth is now 4 times that of the whole EV market. Again,
Well, that's significant, I think.
It is, which means that the company is grabbing ground and market share from other manufacturers.
Well, these sales put Ford in the number 2 spot for total monthly EV sales, trailing only Tesla. And Tesla only makes electrics.
That is significant.
It is.
Yeah. So, should we go on?
Ford has 38,000 customers to pay to activate Blue Cruise, which is Ford's answer to Tesla's autopilot.
Okay.
Just thought you want to know that.
We are up to Wednesday, June 22nd.
All day.
And we
And
have
we got an
picture.
interesting picture here.
Is that a dhow?
It looks like a dhow.
That's what boats of that type are called. And by
Yeah, it
the
looks
way,
very much like a dhow.
Tom, I noticed something about this boat.
It's Egypt. Of course it's a dhow.
Yeah, I noticed something about this boat, and I think you'll be amused the same way I was. The sail is on the wrong side of the mast. It's behind the mast instead of in front of it. Am I wrong?
Well, it is, but it's working. I mean, the wind is coming from that direction. And
I know
pushing
that. I know.
The mast is giving some substance to the sail.
Well, maybe it is. Maybe they did that on purpose. That's what they wanted to do, and I just don't understand what I'm seeing. But anyway.
Well, Aquapower, ACWA ACWA, closes, it's a consortium, and it closes on $15 billion of an Egyptian wind project.
Is that 15 billion or 1.5 billion?
I'm sorry, 1.5. I'm reading wrong.
This is from ZAWYA, Z-A-W-Y-A. They're all in caps. I don't know what it means.
I don't either.
A consortium led by Aquapower, a leading Saudi developer, investor, and operator of power generation. This does sound like a press release. Water desalination and green hydrogen plants worldwide. You know, it makes me...
Desalination is very big in the Middle East.
Yeah, I know. Signed an agreement to develop a 1.1 gigawatt wind project in Egypt at an investment value of $1.5 billion.
Well, it's located in the Gulf of Suez, which is the extension of the Nile River, really.
Yep.
And it is the largest single contracted wind farm in the Middle East, and one of the largest onshore wind farms in the world.
Yes.
Well, it's onshore, but it's in water.
Okay. I don't know what to say about that, but you know.
Well, the plant's going to be commercially operational by the end of 2026, so they're
all that long.
getting there.
This is what happens. You want to build a nuclear power plant, it might take 20 years, it might take 30.
But you can put something up like this up in a couple of months.
Yeah. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica. We have a picture of an offshore wind turbine.
How did that happen?
Courtesy of Simply Blue Group.
It's an interesting offshore wind turbine sitting by itself, all by its lonesome.
Well, I think it might be a test wind turbine or demonstration.
Well, this is interesting because it says it's boom times for wind power and green hydrogen in Ireland. We haven't heard much of what's happening in Ireland.
Not a lot. It comes up periodically, and mostly it's talking about how Ireland is behind everybody else. But I don't think it's.
Well, it looks from this article looks like they're getting set to get back in shape.
Clean power is blooming in Ireland thanks to such new technology as green hydrogen and floating wind turbines. That's good news for the economy and great news for the rest of the EU, which is scrambling to untangle itself from Russian fossil fuel imports.
Well, Ireland seems to be waking up, and it's both Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland that's waking up.
Yeah.
And it says in the article, the rich wind resources of Ireland are fostering a green hydrogen boom.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to be hearing more about green hydrogen.
We are. But
with green ammonia for good measure.
Right.
New technology includes green hydrogen and floating wind turbines. So they're getting into the game late, but they're getting in with both feet.
Yeah, the business of green hydrogen is something that I worry about a little bit, because people are putting. I don't know how much has been committed to this to it by this point, but I'd bet it's over $100 billion. And they've.
Well, what's green hydrogen?
Well, it's hydrogen that's created
from green electricity.
From green electricity.
Okay.
And that means that it's being done by electrolysis of water usually. But the thing is, they've committed maybe $100 billion to this all over the world, maybe more, and there isn't any market for it. They're anticipating a market. And the reason why they're anticipating a market is because
green hydrogen can be stored easily.
And it can be used instead of natural gas.
And it can be used, yeah.
So these, if you build a lot of green hydrogen plants in Ireland and you get them up quickly, it could go to Europe to displace natural gas demand that is the Russians are not covering. And this could be really important.
England is pretty close to Ireland.
Yeah, it could go to England. It could, but it just means this natural gas can be moved around, not just in pipelines but in ships, and so this stuff could have value, but you can make green hydrogen anywhere that you have green electricity, and you can make green electricity anywhere on Earth.
Yeah. As long as the sources are green.
Right. And so why would you build plants in Australia, for example, to put hydrogen onto ships in liquid form and run them up to Japan, when you can build the plants in Japan?
Well, that's what's happening. I mean, just change Japan to Europe, and that's what's happening here.
That's right. Now, honestly, I think that if the Irish build the big plant and they don't wind up selling green hydrogen to Europeans, they'll use it themselves. That's fine.
Well, they have no natural hydrocarbons. They
have peat.
Well, they're not using it for generating electricity anymore.
Not anymore. And they aren't even using it for, they're
not using it for anything now.
They are recovering their peat bogs.
Yeah.
Because they recognize that there's value to them. Okay, Tom, we should probably go to the next item.
Well, we got a picture of an airship.
Yeah, in a hangar. That is a big hangar, and actually that's a big airship.
What's the difference between an airship and a blimp?
Well, this is a dirigible, and I think a blimp is also an airship.
It's just a gas bag.
The blimp is basically a blimp-shaped balloon.
It's a gas balloon. Yeah. And the dirigible has a structure, and you can see in the picture.
There's a frame in the sky. And that frame, I would bet, is probably made of some modern stuff that is not... the Hindenburg was made of had a frame that was made of magnesium.
And it all caught on fire.
When magnesium catches on fire...
You can't put it out.
You can't put it out, although not all the magnesium burned. I knew a guy who actually went to where the Hindenburg had been.
Well, the Hindenburg put the kibosh on any kind of airships at that time. Just scared the hell out of anybody.
Scared everybody. But he picked up a piece of the magnesium and he showed it to me. and it was like aluminum. They'd have the same problem with aluminum. Aluminum burns.
Aluminum burns.
Unbelievable.
Magnesium burns better, but aluminum burns.
Magnesium lights easier. It's easier to light magnesium.
Yeah,
it's not easy to light aluminum.
Harder to, but it burns.
And once it's on fire, you can't
put it out.
Can't put the fire out. Well, you can put the fire out with carbon dioxide, but you can't put it out with water.
With water, right?
You throw it in the water, and it keeps burning underwater.
Yeah, under the water.
Okay.
Well, 14 miles south of Akron, Goodyear built a base in 1917 that over 100 years later still constructs and maintains the company's blimp.
Yeah. Okay, this is from the BBC. Could we have a title for the article?
Oh,
we have been remiss.
This is the last article.
And it wasn't your fault. It was my fault.
Giant hangar, and you're looking at it.
There you go.
Poised for an aviation revolution. Huh?
You said you're looking at it, and I said they're looking at me, and I'm just
let's look at
an old bag.
No, I'm looking at.
You're looking at the new bag.
I'm looking at my computer, and there it is up there, but I didn't have it up.
Read the title again, would you please, Tom?
Yeah, giant hangar poised for an aviation revolution.
Airships could help speed up delivery for aid in disaster zones, carry air cargo much more cheaply than air freighters, and cut aviation emissions. Airships could offer an alternative to some kinds of aviation. A new generation of airships is taking form in a former airship factory in Akron, Ohio. So they're taking an old airship factory, and guess what they're doing with it? They're turning it into a new airship
Well, this
factory.
old airship factory is useless. It's so big, it's not usable for anything else.
I mean, if you look at this picture, you can see guys there on the floor.
It's big.
That thing is gigantic. And what would you do with it? Well, you could
bigger than a hockey rink.
You could probably play football in it if you had to.
Certainly could play football.
There's no place to put the spectators. I mean,
I think it's big enough to put a couple of stands in there.
It probably is, but one thing you would not be able to do very often would be to kick a football and have it hit the ceiling.
Well, what the takeaway here is, today LTA, the company, is working to manufacture airships that are safer, faster, more environmentally friendly, and more capable than ever before.
Yeah.
Helium will provide the lift. Hydrogen fuel cells will power it.
Yeah.
Okay? The big challenge, and this is the big challenge, are there enough people in the 21st century who want to buy an airship to rebuild an industry?
Well, I think
the economics are there.
Yeah, and I think the not just the economics, but there's other reasons to do this. If you're going to travel to Europe, for example, or a better example would be coming back from Europe. If you were to come back from Europe, you go to Heathrow Airport, you check in, it takes 2.5 hours. You get on the plane, you sit on the tarmac for 45 minutes. The plane takes off. 3 hours later, you're in New York City, waiting to get off the plane. Actually, not.
So I've taken a trip, and it's kind of wearisome.
It's wearisome. This thing, look at the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and there's a scene in there where Indiana Jones and his father are on an airship.
They're on a blimp.
No, it's not a blimp.
It's an airship.
It's one of the German Hindenburg class.
The Hindenburg,
airships. They have to escape.
A Zeppelin.
It's a Zeppelin. They have to escape, and they go down. There's a little biplane down there, and they can get into the biplane and take off, which seems a little unlikely to me, but nevertheless, that's what they do. And you get an idea of what the inside of one of these things looks like. They've got a dining area.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
They've got a bar. They've got
this was in comfort.
They have, everybody has got his own little stateroom. He sleeps in the bed. So you go to the airport, and you go to the United States, and you get there.
It takes you a couple of days, but by the time you get there, you're relaxed.
A couple of days, because you're going constantly at a speed of maybe 100 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour. Anyway, we're out of time, Tom. So we have to tell people to have an especially
let's get us both
week.
up here.
There you go.
There we are.
Have an especially enchanting week. That's what that says.
Oh, it's got to be enchanting. Make sure it's enchanting.
Make sure it's
Make sure it's especially enchanting.
And make sure you come back and see us next time, you hear?
You didn't say it right.
Please say it.
Y'all come back and see us now, you hear?
That's right.
Got to put a little southern drawl in that.
Absolutely.